How's it going, man? How's your day been?
Good, good. Yep, won doubles, fun.
You did win doubles. Your teammate was Bobby Frizz.
Yep.
And how are you doing so far in singles?
Good. Just beat Reach. Falcon scary, but Fox Edgeguard's Falcon, so it's chill.
Is this the first post-COVID tournament you've been to, or have you been going to locals?
I don't really have any locals near me, but I've gone to a decent amount of tournaments, driven really, really far. This has been the closest tournament to me that I've gone to so far. It's like 3.5 hours. But yeah, no, this is probably my 6th or 7th tournament.
And I was in your stream the other day. You've been sort of de-rusting for Riptide. How has your mindset been approaching that tournament?
I haven't been practicing as much or as well as I'd like, but I'm just looking forward to the first major back so much that it's I could do terrible and I know I'm going to have a great time regardless, but I'd like to do well in the tournament. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I have some issues in certain matchups, but if I get a good bracket, I can do super well. So hopefully I get lucky.
What matchups are you struggling with right now?
I feel like it's really easy for me to lose to Falco right now.
I was watching you play Falco on stream. That was most of the sets I caught.
Yeah. Falco for sure, and then Falcon kind of. I don't know. I don't feel like I have a very good chance versus any of the top 50 Falcons.
What do you think it is about that matchup that makes it tough for you?
It's really easy to die versus Falcon, and oftentimes the way I win is by not letting my opponent kill me. I just DI really well, do I don't die. But versus Falcon, that's not really as much of a factor. I think that's part of it, and then also just the way that Fox and Falcon interact in neutral is kind of uncomfortable for me because it's not Fox Dittos, which is the only matchup that I'm comfortable in.
Yeah, I watched your Fox Ditto on stream earlier, and one thing I really loved was every time you got a grab, you just really seem to go into this awesome zone.
Yeah, and that's how, so with Falco, I still feel like I can beat most Falcos, even though I don't feel very comfortable in the matchup, because it's when I'm hitting a Falco, it's a slightly harder to combo Fox, but also easier to edge guard. So that's I feel like I can still do that versus Falco better than I can versus Falcon.
So there's actually so much I want to talk to you about. Let's table Fox for now. We're gonna get back to Fox. One of the first things I want to talk to you about is the Champaign scene, which is where you're from. Tell me a little bit about that scene, how you got involved in it, and just anything that comes to your mind and to your heart about Champaign.
Yeah, so Champaign is where I'm originally from. Now I live in Arkansas, but Champaign's where I started playing Melee. University of Illinois has a great scene, and it's lasted for a really long time. It's also the home of the longest running tournament series ever, Show Me Your Moves, which wasn't the longest running tournament series until recently, I guess. According to a Melee stats person, there was some other series, but it stopped.
Let's go Champaign.
yeah, which is super cool. There's been so many different eras of Champaign Smash, and it's kind of going into a new one right now with me leaving, Shabo leaving, PRZ kind of leaving, but it's still gonna be sick with TO's Kill Blue, and then a bunch of other people. But basically, when I started 7 years ago, I think my first tournament might have been in 2015. I think I started playing Melee 2014 or maybe earlier, but I got into it because I used to play the Pokemon trading card game, and we would meet at the student union, and one night there was not the Smash Club or anything. It was called Social Gamers Club, and they had a Brawl Minus setup, and so I played that, and then I went with a friend of mine who was in college at the time.
How old were you at the time?
12, 13.
You're a youngster.
Yeah. And played some Brawl Minus. That then I found out about PM. Played PM. I think my first tournament was a PM tournament, actually. And then I started playing Melee, and then I just kept playing. I eventually found tournaments.
Were you sort of always drawn to Fox as a character, or have you jumped around? Because I saw you tweet the other day. You said, basically, I'm going to paraphrase, it saddens you that someone could look at the character select screen and not pick Fox.
Yeah. No, I've actually it took me a really long time to settle on solo Fox. Even as recently as like 2-3 years ago, I thought about dual maining Fox and Sheik. But yeah, no, like my first tournament I played like Ganon and Luigi.
Nice.
If you look at the screen and pick those, don't. And like I've mained most of the top tiers in the game. But yeah, eventually the reason I picked Fox, before I learned that Fox loses to Marth, I didn't want to ever have a loss where I could blame it on the character select screen. So I picked Fox, best character in the game, probably still the best character in the game, and you can't really blame the character for your loss, and I never wanted to be able to do that. So that's like why I settled on Fox, and then it just happened to be very fun, good fit, very cool.
Is Marth a character that you struggle against, or do you not mind Marth?
No, I think I used to dislike the Marth matchup just because I was an idiot. But it's a matchup that I've been working on a lot in the past couple months. Not so much super recently, but I feel very solid in that matchup.
What's something you think maybe some Fox players aren't putting together against Marth?
Edge guarding is a big thing that I've been focusing on. You really just have to kill when you're able to. And so like hitting the drop down shines from the ledge and like timing your invincibility, stuff like that is just super key. And then the other part is understanding kind of like Marth's ground mix-ups with down tilt, and like how you can interact with that in positive ways. And then like I think a huge thing is crouch canceling down tilts and fairs. Yeah, and just like moving towards Marth at good times and not poorly, because Marth can just like blow you up for that. Pivot grab, whatever.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have told you this, but the set that I first watched you play, I mean, I'd seen you play in some tournaments, but the one that like was really like, wow, this guy's crazy was, can you guess?
Trif?
It was against Trif. And you said something really interesting about your set against Trif, was that you said going into Awakening, you didn't like necessarily think you could beat him?
I was certain I could not beat him.
And so now that you have, did that like change your perspective on things as a player, or was it just kind of like, awesome, like I won? Because that set, I watched it not knowing who won, and I was like popping off in my room. I was like, let's go,
hell
dude,
yeah.
That's crazy.
I think it was absolutely just incredible to win, because the story I had said was I was like one of a few American people there, and so like everyone was asking me how I thought I would do if they were like, do you think you can win? And every single person, without fail, I gave the same response. No, but I think I can get second. I can't beat Trif. Every single person. And so that was like, that will always stick with me, that I was so confident that I couldn't and then did it. But yeah, no, that definitely, it solidified that I felt that I could really beat people if I put in the work and that I could be a good player.
How did you end up at Awakening?
So my mom had retired that year, and her, my sister, and me were gonna go to Scotland. And anytime I go anywhere, usually it's just for Melee, but like anytime I've gone places not for Melee, I still try and find like if there's any tournaments, any people trying to play. And the long story short is eventually found that FET was happening like the same time basically. And eventually they were just like, my mom and sister were like, okay, you should actually just like go to Europe, go to these tournaments, we'll go to Scotland, you will enjoy it more. You will, and I was like, you're right, I would enjoy Scotland too for sure, but like not as much as this Europe trip. So I went to FET 2 weeks before Awakening, and that was in the UK, and I lost to Trif at that tournament. And then went to Germany a few days after that, and then Awakening happened. And yeah, so that's why I was there, because my mom retired and got like a retirement bonus thing, and so she was going to use that for a trip. And then I ended up doing a much sicker trip, for me at least.
That's so amazing that like, kind of because of just some outside circumstance, you just ended up at that tournament.
Yeah. And
you won, dude. That's
yeah,
so cool.
It was super cool.
Well, so you've beaten Trif. Was Trif ranked like 12 at the time?
Yeah, he was ranked 12 on that summer top 50 ranking.
So where would you say moving forward, and I kind of want to bounce back to Champaign, but we'll get back to it. What are your Melee goals right now?
I'm not certain, really.
Because I gotta say a quick thing. So many amazing young Fox players. I see them rise and then they disappear. And like, I get so excited to watch them play and like to watch them just take names. And like, what's in your future? Are you gonna disappear? Are you here to stay? Like,
we'll see. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever really fully disappear, but if I found something else, whether it's like school or just like any career path that I really valued and really wanted to do, I would rather pursue something that's more sustainable than Melee.
yeah, I can't blame you for that.
Yeah, but it's just like I haven't found something like that at all I have a drive for anywhere close to Melee. So right now I'm just playing Melee, and I would like to get ranked like top 20, and then currently it would be cool to become the best player in the world. But becoming top 10, top 20 is kind of the current goal, basically.
Well, what's your approach to improvement?
Oh, very bad.
Yeah.
I basically play a lot of Melee. That is the main thing I do. I play a lot of Melee, and I don't improve as efficiently as I would like to. The biggest thing is like using friendlies to learn and like trying to practice stuff in friendlies. But I'll do analysis very sparsely, which Shabo has like been a huge help with. And then I'm getting Drug Fox lessons right now again, and I got them in the past, and that helped a lot. I actually, between FET and Awakening, I had a Drug Fox lesson where we watched my set with Trif. From FET, so
was Drug Fox the secret sauce?
Yeah, he might have been. He definitely, yeah.
What is it about analysis? Is it like you see a bad habit, or do you pick like one thing to work on? Like something Gaz and I talk a lot about is like when I get down on myself for losing, he's like, next tournament, just pick one thing. Like focus on that one thing. So like, is there anything like that you kind of got going on? Is it more holistic? Like you look at everything?
It depends, but usually it's more looking at everything and then kind of picking out some stuff from that. But really, I do it so inefficiently. I still learn a lot from analysis for sure, but I don't learn it in a way that I can really apply to improvement. Like, it's rare for me to be like, okay, this is a very exact thing for me to practice, which Drug Fox has been helpful with, because that was in my first lesson back, because I've done 2 since stopping a year ago. And like the first thing I said was like, I really need to have concrete things to work on, because I'm very bad at figuring that out, and then solo practicing them. But it's just, I don't do these at the correct rates, I feel, for improvement, but still just like playing a lot of Melee and having a decent framework to think about it is key, I guess.
Is there anything right now that's like at the forefront of your brain, like this is the thing I want to focus on, or like...
Right now I'm kind of focusing on and wanting to focus on the Falco matchup and like playing good Melee and like good mix-ups in the matchup. I feel like I am just so much better at the Fox. I feel like I am a like very solid player in that matchup, and I just do not feel the same way about other characters.
Yeah.
But I would like to get there, especially versus Falco. I think it's just a very, very cool matchup.
Yeah.
And so like that also is including some practicing like my execution with like dash out of laser, because you can't really play the matchup until you can do the things your brain wants to do.
Yeah.
So that's been key.
What was the COVID era like for you? Were you a net play monster? Did you kind of tune out? Like, how was that for you?
I played a lot of net play for sure. But unfortunately, I was not able to compete in a way that I enjoyed for the first, like, maybe almost year of COVID. I feel like starting in December of 2020 kind of is when I was, like, first able to get into a competitive mindset for net play tournaments and, like, get my heart racing.
Yeah.
But before then, I entered some events still and like did okay, kind of. I don't really remember, but I just could not care about it at all. I played a bunch of friendlies though, and I still yeah, I always played a bunch, but I could not get into a net play competing mode until almost 2021 probably. And even then it was still like just kind of, and then by like March or so, maybe whenever the first Gallant, I think, or Four Loko Fight Night, one of those was when I really felt like I was competing again.
Is it just like if you're not really sitting next to the person, you can't really care? Or like, is it, because I mean, tournaments are so fun to be at, and like when you're not at one, it sucks too. So like,
yeah, I think it's just like a combination of all of that. It's like net play feels different, and being in my room is so different. It's just like quiet. I'm wearing headphones. It's like there's just like dead silence in the house, and I'm like, yes, or something like that. Or I'm just like, fuck, because I lose. And it's just like, I don't want to be super upset just because I lost in a net play tournament where I'm all alone. Like at a tournament, go out to eat with your homies. It's like losing sucks still, but it's like you have people there. Yeah, that was definitely a big part of it.
yeah.
And I didn't have a 144 hertz monitor for quite a while,
Yeah.
which just made it so much worse.
Do you feel like the COVID era with net play and stuff, do you think it was a time where you were able to improve, or was it kind of just like maintaining what you had?
No, I think I got way better.
Oh, nice, nice.
I think I got way better without really trying to at points.
Uh-huh.
I feel like my understanding of the game just kind of like got a lot better for, I'm really not all that certain why. I think like I played a lot with like IBDW and Loki.
Oh, cool.
And then I talked with Shabo a lot and played with Shabo a lot too.
Uh-huh.
And I really feel like I just was able to understand the game better. But yeah, I definitely improved a lot. I think I'm way better now, but I don't think that that will necessarily translate to my results yet.
Right. With your Fox Ditto prowess, do you think any of that has to do, or like how did that come into play playing like Moki and IBDW?
So Champaign has been known as like the land of foxes, but now it's entering an era without foxes.
Yeah, all the foxes left.
But my whole time playing Melee, I've always played Fox Dittos have to be by far my most played matchup. Shabo is like my biggest mentor and like training partner ever, and we talk about all matchups and stuff, but like when we play, we're playing Fox Dittos.
Yeah.
And so it's just like so much of my time in Melee, and I also love it. Fox Dittos are by far my favorite matchup.
Yeah.
And so then I've always had a better understanding of the matchup, and then playing really good foxes, Moki, IBDW, I was able to, I feel like I'm able to play Melee versus them now.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I was able to do that before.
So you placed in top 8, congratulations. Do you want your payout digitally or cash?
See, we're just talking about Champaign being the land of foxes. Let's turn back the clock a little bit. When you think of Champaign, were you sad to leave?
I was definitely very sad to leave, though, but not really so much for Melee, really, because it was the end of Champaign as I've known it. Shabo is going back to Florida. PRZ is maybe kind of moving to NorCal. I don't know. He seems to always be in Champaign still. But it was definitely different, but it was more so just like in regards to the rest of my life that I was sad about moving. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Champaign was a big city, but it is a very different environment than small town in Arkansas.
How'd you end up moving to Arkansas?
My parents moved there. My mom retired a few years ago, as I said, and my dad is wanting to retire soon, and the property taxes are just like way cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say like one of the upsides to Springfield, like cost of living is so low, so I can kind of live however I want. Like I'm able to support myself, pay all my bills, and also kind of fuck around and do stuff like this and like play a bunch of Melee. So yeah. What are like, do you have any like favorite stories from Champaign, or like any like Champaign lore we need to know about?
Champaign lore. There's like a bunch of things, but I don't know. I think something that will always be great is for the Melee games, the collegiate crew battles, or it was actually CSL at that point, not TMG. But Deegs, a Ice Climbers player from Champaign, Smash and Splash, it was like the regional finals or something. We played against some. I say we. I never went to U of I, but
Yeah, but basically did.
Yeah. We played against a Canadian school, and Deegs took like 15 stocks, a lot of stocks, and someone else from Champaign, it made a combo video to Remember the Name, I believe is the name of the song, but instead of every time, so it's like 10% whatever, and then eventually it says skill, but every time it just says skill. I believe it was Silich, who's a Champaign player, he made this video. It's great.
10% skill, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power, skill, 5% skill, 50% skill, and 100% reason to remember the name.
After what your Trif said, and this would have been, I don't know, what, like a year ago or a year and a half ago? When was that tournament?
Awakening?
Yeah, 2 years ago? I don't even remember.
It was in August of 2018. That's almost 3 years ago now.
That's wild. It literally feels like yesterday.
Or maybe it was 2019.
I think it was 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
So you seem to like have kind of shot up that year, and also the year before that. What was that like for you? I mean, did you always kind of feel like you had it in you, or did a lot of things change that year? Like,
so I'm ranked top 50, 48th on the 2019 MPGR. I do think that I'm probably a top 50 player skill. I mean, right now I definitely, absolutely will. I feel that way. I feel like I'm pretty good at Melee, but that year, if it wasn't for Awakening, I would have probably been ranked like very similar. I was 78th the year before that, and probably would have been very similar. The end of the year, I started doing really well. Beat like Hacks, Trif, got good wins. But yeah, so I don't know. I kind of did, like, I wanted to be ranked top 100 at some point in playing Melee. That was something I wanted to do. And I did just like feel that I could do it, and then I just like started beating people, and I didn't really feel it. Still like felt good, but I didn't really feel like I was very good at Melee until probably like after Awakening, even really kind of until recently. But now I feel like I'm getting pretty good. Melee is just super hard.
is it just like a personal thing? Like I can be so much better? Is that kind of like what it is?
Yeah, and just like in the way. I've always had incredibly inconsistent results. I've always had it because so many of my wins had came from just like a really good punish game and being able to beat people if they're playing at all off. If they're messing up their execution, I will kill them for it. For a lot of my career, I did that, but it really rarely felt like I like outplayed my opponent and won. An example that I've been saying is Ginger. There was one, I think the year I was ranked top 100, I beat him twice, and he was like a top 30 player, maybe top 50 for sure. Really good still, and it did not feel at all like I outplayed him or was the better player in the moment or anything. And I never have felt like I've outplayed Ginger, and I want to feel like I am. And so it's like until then, I'm still not gonna feel like I'm great. And I think like I can still beat people, which is very cool, and I like that, and it makes like I'm clearly good at Melee, but there's just so much more to it, and that the way I play just is inconsistent, and so I want to fix that. And I think once like I am fixing that, and that's what I'll consider good, basically.
Yeah, I had kind of there's a player here, you might have met him, Mario or Guat. He was wearing the cutoff hoodie, so I've technically beaten him, but I don't count it in my head because like he SD'd so many times, and like I didn't feel good about it, and I was like, have I really beaten him? Like,
you have a win on him. You didn't beat him.
That's a great way to put that.
Yeah, and that's like, I'm not a big fan of rankings, but I feel like it's kind of unfair for me, who's got ranked top 50, to say that, because it's like I still get the ego boost from that, and then I'm like, rankings don't matter, but it's like I felt really good about that. But it's like I don't feel like rankings are always that reflective of like of some nebulous version of skill that I feel.
It really is like, I mean, it's not like just a number, but it also is. I mean,
Yeah, it's based off of wins, not based off of beating and outplaying people, which is important, and it's still a very important thing, and it's matters, kind of, but it's just not what I value right now.
So kind of pivoting off of rankings a little bit, what do you like about Melee? Like, why have you played it for so long? Like, you've been playing since you were 12 years old or whatever. Like, having played competitively since you were 12, you've literally grown up with the game in like a kind of a unique way. So what keeps you playing? What do you like about it?
I don't know. There's just nothing else that feels anywhere as good as Melee. There's just like nothing else, no other games, not really. There's just like nothing that I've found that I enjoy anywhere as much as Melee. I really have grown up playing Melee. It's the people I've been friends with. Like, it's just been what I've done. And I feel like I play it somewhat, I don't want to say out of obligation, but it's kind of out of obligation due to the fact that there's nothing else that I want to do. If I want there to be something else I want to do, but until then, I'm just going to play Melee.
Yeah. I heard someone say something about young athletes once where they said, and if you're like a high school athlete who like gets really good, you have to confront your shortcomings like at a kind of a young age. Did you have any experiences like that where you had problems with mentality or like really confronting some difficult things?
Oh God, yeah, for sure. I mean, I started playing Melee when I was, I think, 12 because I was talking to someone who remembered me like talking about it in 6th grade. And I also remembered playing Melee with one of my friends who was in 7th grade and talking like during cross country and stuff.
It's so funny to me to imagine like 6th grade Melee players.
Yeah, it's weird. And I mean, I was super immature. I'm just like a small child and huge ego at times. Once I started like kind of getting good, maybe like getting good relatively, when I was like taking games off like power ranked players in Champaign and then like getting ranked, and there was like a big jump from when I was like first ranked to like 9th or something. After that, I don't remember what I was ranked, but it was clear that I was like getting good and gonna be like in contention for like top 3. And I think at that point it was probably I just like had a big ego about everything. And it was unhelpful. It just like was not good. And yeah, I don't know. Melee has had me think about a lot of stuff, and it's definitely shown me flaws in myself. And like I think it still does.
Do you have any examples, or would that be too deep? We have only just met each other.
Yeah.
I can give an example. I can start things off. So like this past year, I've kind of passingly played Melee for a pretty long time, almost like 9 years, but I've very rarely taken the game very seriously. Like, I've kind of just always wanted to beat my friends, go to the occasional tournament. I used to go to Smash and Splash and stuff, get in the pool, you know? Lately I've been really practicing, and what I've noticed about myself is I give up too early. I get frustrated, I give up, and it's like, oh, who cares, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't want to distract him, but the Pikachu playing right there, he destroyed me at the end of pools, and I drown in pools. And I walked away salty. I jumped off my last stock because I just couldn't take it. And it's like, okay, I do that in Melee, but do I do that in real life? And I was like, I think I kind of do sometimes. Like, I think I give up too early. Like, I think I'm too hard on myself. And like, Melee has literally showed me that these past couple months. Like, Gaz the other day was helping me train against Falco, and he saw me shake my head, and he paused the game. He's like, dude, why are you shaking your head? Like, he's like, you're doing fine. And like, so that's something for me where like, I just give up too fast. Like,
yeah, I think that Melee has kind of helped show a similar thing, like a lot of like perfectionism that I didn't even know, because for so much of my life, like in school and stuff, I never felt like I was a perfectionist. But it's like I mess up the smallest thing, I'm always shaking my head, and it's because I feel like I should, for whatever reason, I have no reason to feel this way, but I feel like I should be doing everything perfectly and is exactly how I want to, when that's not realistic. And I think that's just like kind of a case for me generally, for sure.
Do you think Fox has anything to do with that?
No, but it makes it more obvious. Like, it's easier to mess up with Fox, but like the game's hard no matter what character. It's like if I played an easier character, when at the top level, I think every character is so difficult that I really dislike people, like newer players, asking about like what character should I play that's like easier, which I realized there is some merit to that, but I just like, because I used to always think that like if someone's playing Melee, they want to become a top level player. And if you want to become a top level player, it just doesn't matter at all because everything is so hard. But it's like Fox is easier to mess up with a lot of the time. But no matter what character I played, I would be mad at myself for messing up. But yeah, that's something that I'm still working on.
Yeah, I think that's interesting you mentioned the perfectionism thing, because the same person who wrote about high school athletes confronting those things, they were also someone who wrote a lot about perfectionism. But so now that you are a top 50 player, is that something that's on your mind even more, or do you think it's kind of like less? Like, they're like, oh, okay, I know where I stand. Like, I just want to do my best. Or like, let's say you do poorly at Riptide. Like, do you think you'll be like sad, or do you not get sad?
Oh, I get sad. I get so sad. I want to quit Melee so often. Yeah, so actually, going back to just like mentality stuff that I struggled with real quick. I used to smoke a lot of weed at tournaments before bracket, and I didn't really get sad because I was just like apathetic towards the loss because it's like, I don't care. I just didn't really care, and it was not good for my improvement, and it like didn't really have any benefits for Melee, but I wasn't as sad after losing.
Yeah. It has a way of dulling the pain a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not healthy or sustainable if you want to like really break to the next level in Melee, I think, is at least how it feels for me. For me, there's like no way for me to, if I had continued doing that at the same rate and way, I would just never have been able to get as good as I am now. But yeah, no, I get super sad when I lose, and I think it is about that because it's like, if I played perfectly, I probably wouldn't have lost. And it's so easy to devalue your opponent's skill because my mind will automatically phrase my loss much more often as like, I lost because I made mistakes rather than like I lost because my opponent punished my mistakes or I lost because my opponent outplayed me. God, I've thought that so few times, except for with Ginger. Ginger is like, I feel like he just outplays me. And there's a lot of players like that. There's a few players like that.
Who are some players that you really admire?
Players that I really admire have to be like, so Ginger for sure, and then like Zane. That guy's just really, really good.
Is it just Zane's skill you admire, or do you admire his mentality, approach to the game?
All of it. His mentality seems very strong.
He really is the golden boy.
He's just so good, and it seems like he approaches the game really well. He plays the game so intelligently. Mango, of course. Leffen also, because Leffen, I remember doing some analysis of Leffen versus Sheik, and the main thing I determined was it's not worth watching Leffen vs. Sheik because he's doing things that I will not be able to do.
Like what? I
don't fully remember because this was a while ago, and now I think maybe I could do some of the things, but he was just like so fast and so clean and doing just such hard stuff. But yeah, and then people like IBDW also. There's like basically most of like the top 20 players, and then people like Shabo as well, but for like different reasons. But yeah, I don't know. Ginger's someone I really look up to as a player.
Yeah. What about Ginger specifically?
The way he plays Melee is just so good, and it's just like he plays in a way that I would love to play, but as Fox, and he just like plays so honestly, it feels, and really has just such a deep understanding of the game and how the mix-ups work.
I love his analysis.
Yeah. Oh, his analysis is great. How the situations work, what to do, how to play them, and that's just like what I would like to be. But I also feel like I don't put in the work to be that, which is disheartening for sure. But we'll see. I don't know. I still feel like I have a lot of potential and I'm pretty good.
breaking into the top 20 is like a pretty ethereal concept because it's like there's so many great melee players, but some of them can't seem to like make that jump. Like, do you know like what for you think will help you get there, or like?
Yeah, unfortunately. I feel like I say unfortunately because it's really just doing the things that I've always known to do to improve. Solo practice, analysis, and focused friendlies, and really just like doing all of these things consistently. And it's just something I've never done. Recently, somewhat recently, a month and a half ago maybe, 2 months ago, I practiced consistently for 2 weeks straight. And that's the longest I've ever consistently solo practiced. Ever in 7 years of playing Melee.
Dude, I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, you are much better than me, but like I never practice. Like
yeah. And then it's like, if I lose, then it's like, well, did I really deserve to win anyways? I'm not putting in the work. But I feel like the way that I play Melee now and can think about Melee, I have no doubt that I can achieve top 20 and beyond if I put in the necessary work. Yeah, I think I could do it. It just would be really hard, and maybe I'd need like some really good people to quit. But regardless, I think like top 5-ish is my real. That's like when I feel like people are just amazing at Melee. Those players are a whole different level. It's insane how being ranked top 100, the rank like lower ranks below top 50, even like some of top 50 too, but like the lower ranks are just like so much lower level than like top 5 players. It's insane. I said like the difference in skill between me and Armado is like greater still than like an O2, like a day 1 player and me.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty comparable, but it's just like, that's like the analogy that I want to make, because I don't feel like people fully understand. Like, people say there's levels, and there are levels, but people do not seem to fully grasp what that really entails.
So do you think, like, is there a tangible thing? I mean, I know you just mentioned how you would have to improve, which is really consistent practice, really consistent analysis. What are you trying to cultivate through that? Like a really solid B game to where you're never going to lose, like maybe a set you quote unquote shouldn't lose? Is it a deep understanding of mix-ups like Mango, a player like Mango? Like,
both of those currently, like the biggest thing for me, so much of my time in Melee, I've really not valued consistency. I've just wanted to like kind of be able to be really good sometimes. But so when I say like becoming top 20, so much of that really is just going to be me not losing sets that I quote unquote shouldn't lose.
Yeah, which is a dangerous like mindset to get into of like should and shouldn't.
For sure. I mean, like I definitely still fall into that, and then it just like makes the loss so much more annoying and like hard to deal with when it's like, I lost, I should have lost. It's really that simple. If you lost, you should have lost. But yeah, so like upping my C game, B game, and just like consistency in tech and everything is just like really key to that. But that won't, getting better at my like raising my floor is not gonna raise my ceiling. It's not gonna mean I can play at a top 5 level. But the like really breaking into the next echelon for like my peaks is going to involve a lot more understanding of mix-ups and like my situational awareness, and then applying like really solid ideas in the situations and like really playing the mix-up game and at like good ranges and stuff like that, which I really feel like I kind of have broken into that next tier in Fox Dittos. I feel like I really feel like I'm a top 20 player in Fox Dittos. Like maybe even higher. My ego in Fox Dittos is huge.
Well, you're probably going to be playing Bobby next, I think.
Yeah.
Which will be a Fox Ditto probably.
For sure. And like I'm just really confident in that matchup. And I lost to Zuppy in an online tournament recently, and it definitely felt way worse than it would if I didn't feel like I was amazing at the Fox Ditto.
Wait, is this grand finals? Are you in grands?
No, winners finals. Winners finals, yeah. What was the question? Or
what was the question?
Something I don't know. But I was talking about how I think I'm really good at Fox Dittos. But just that I feel like I've broken into that next echelon of like understanding how they work. where I just do not feel at all the same way in the other matchups. So I need to actually, something that I have thought about briefly but need to delve deeper into, I think, is trying to restructure the way that I think about other matchups to be in like the same terms and concepts as I think of Fox Dittos, because I think of Fox Dittos in like the same way that you should most, like all matchups, just like from a fundamental spacing, how ranges interact with each other, how you should play these mix-ups based on like how like just like expected value and just like basic game theory stuff. And I just don't do that with other matchups, at least not like at a like ingrained level. Like I can do it when I'm thinking about the matchups, talking about the matchups. I don't think I do it great, but it's like I know what to say, but I don't know how to do it.
The difference in our skill may as well be day one in Armada. But like what is hard for me is I don't learn like visually very well. So if I can't find a way to verbalize like what I'm not getting in the matchup, it's very hard for me to wrap my head around it. Like,
me too, actually. I completely on the same page. Like I cannot, some people can just like watch their game back in like full speed and like know things from it. I am terrible at doing that, and it's something to work on for sure. But yeah, so when I do analysis, I really need to talk it through. And yeah, verbalizing it. What I find really, really helpful is writing. So sometimes I've written about just like various situations, and I'll just like write down what each person can do, like what's like good, what beats what, and like how the situation can play out. And that's really what helps me. I can't just like see the situation, like watch it, and like you only see one outcome, of course, but like, and then be like, oh, there are all of these other things that could be done. I can like kind of be like, oh, here's one thing that would have beaten the thing that did happen, but it's not like I can really fully form my understanding of the mix-ups visually.
I think it was Gunther's.
I think he might have played Ness in like PM for a little bit. I can't remember, but he said, someone asked him how he improved, and he said when he's taking a shower and when he's taking a shit, he just thinks about Melee. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Like,
it's, yeah, so I'll do that sometimes. And basically when I talk about like writing, it's just thinking about it at like a much stronger level, because when I think about it, it's very verbally. I can't really think of in pictures or like visualize the situations at all. So it's just like in my head, I just am basically talking through it. And then it doesn't stick with me anywhere as good as writing, which I don't do very often. I think if I start writing about Melee more, that would also be a great way for me to improve.
Maybe you need, I read a really cool book recently called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And it's by this writer named Haruki Murakami. And he basically talks about how running every day and dedicating himself to it made him a much better writer. And maybe you just gotta have like a little Melee journal or something. I don't know.
I think that would help me immensely. And yeah, so some of the things like that with just like improvement in general and knowing what I should do to improve, it definitely also makes it feel worse when I don't do it. Because it's like, it's different if you don't know what to do to improve, and then you're like, I'm not improving, but I don't really know what to do. Whereas for me, I'll often feel like I'm not really improving and I know exactly what to do, and then don't do it. And I think there's just, in my whole life, that's always been a case, whether it's like studying or whatever. It feels a lot worse when you know what to do and still don't do it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you two more things.
Cool.
And then I'll let you go.
Cool.
Living in Arkansas now, do you have any worry about your ability to get to tournaments? Or, I mean, you have net play, so you got any anxiety about that?
I have net play, and I'm very super lucky to actually have really solid internet where I'm at. It's like
that fiber?
No. Maybe some part of their like infrastructure for whatever this company is fiber, maybe. But no, not at least like to my house. But it's like better than what I had in Champaign even, and that just that like makes it so that there's no reason that I can't just improve as well as I could anywhere else. Tournaments right now, because COVID is like quieting down and tournaments are coming back, I'm kind of going crazy and just driving really far. But I'm gonna stop doing that as much soon because it's not really sustainable. It's also expensive and it's just like tiring, exhausting. But it's just like I wanted to play in tournaments so bad. And so we'll see. But I'm planning on going to all the majors right now. After Genesis is really when I'll be like seeing what I'll really be doing. But until then, I'm just gonna go to everything. Just like flying to the majors, and I'll drive to stuff like this still, just not weekly or stuff like that. But yeah, I have access to NetPlay, and I can watch Melee, I can do analysis, do solo practice, play the matchups and everything.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
super sick.
Well, last thing I'll ask you, it's really just, is there anything on your mind you want to tell to the small amount of people who will watch this?
Not really. I mean, I think I talked about a lot of stuff. It was fun. We talked about a lot of good stuff.
How was your Sunshine experience?
Oh, very good. It was super sick. Classic. It's such a classic tournament in the basement of a bowling alley. Like, it doesn't get more Melee than that.